Hi, I'm Glenn Martin and I write books and I publish them. One of my books is called Library Meets Book Fair. Odd title, I suppose, but it says what it means. I have a personal library and I went to a book fair and I found books that I own. There are lots of book fairs around Sydney. I was at one of these book fairs when I noticed that there was a book that I already owned, that was already in my library. So then I thought, what would it be if I went to a book fair with the intention of looking for books that I already owned? The library that I have now used to be a garage, and then it used to be a stained glass workshop. Now it's my library. It probably contains about 4,500 books. You probably need to have some idea about why I have a library, or at least how it grows. Well, I do visit bookshops, that's true, and I buy books occasionally. Sometimes I purchase books online, which is a bit more specific. I also go to second-hand shops and see what's there. It's interesting to see what people have got rid of and they don't need anymore. Occasionally I go to a talk and listen to somebody and I might buy a book from that. Even more occasionally, I might get a gift of a book from a friend who might think that I'm interested in the topic. And lastly, I visit book fairs. A book fair is like an ordinary person's treasure house for books. It's random. You don't know what you'll find. There are books on all sorts of subjects. If you're lucky, the books are reasonably well categorized. But there's a good chance of finding something interesting in any topic of interest. And what am I looking for? Well, as I grow older, my interests grow broader. Particularly since I started doing family history, the range of things that are of interest has grown and grown. But it's broad enough anyway. I'm interested in books that talk about how to live or give examples of how to live. I am interested in books that are about understanding the self better, books about growth and development and human learning. But there's a wide field of things that are of interest. Things about places, far-off places, are of interest. Things that have happened in history and things that have happened are of interest. I'm interested in the beautiful and what's admirable. So it's a wide range of things that could capture my interest. Once I'd accepted this as a quest to look for books that I already had, I found more and more. In the end, I found nearly 40 books over about 3 or 4 book fairs. And occasionally I bought one if it looked like a different publication, later or earlier or hardcover. Mostly I took photos of the covers and found the books when I got home, and then started to look at the books to see what value I had found in them in the first place. And what were the topics that I came across, the books? The history of Kyoga was one of them. I used to live there. I used to live there for 20 years. The history of humanity and of civilizations. Books about beliefs and about healing. Books about self-development and relationships. I found books on Indigenous people of Australia, on Indigenous knowledge, and I also found books about words and language itself. And of course, there was Kitty Flanagan's 488 Rules for Life. It could be said that she's a comedian or a humorist. Visually, here's a sample of the range of books. One of the earliest ones was Virginia Satir's book People Making. That was from the 1970s. More recent, Alain de Botton, The Pleasures and Sorrows of Work, which is a very popular book in the last few years. I really liked the book Being Mortal by Dr. Atul Gawande. There was another book that had a funny title, Sinning Across Spain, but I saw the author speak at a book festival, and so that was interesting to me. Sagaland, which was about Iceland. Iceland's an unusual place, and I was interested. Dark Emu was about Aboriginal knowledge by well-known Aboriginal Bruce Pascoe, and perhaps even more well-known is the book The Invitation by Araya Mountain Dreamer. It is a book that crops up everywhere. There was a book called Intuition, which I thought was a very sound piece of work by Paul Fenton Smith. A book by an Englishman, Ken Robinson, about how your passion changes everything. I'd seen him talk at a conference too. And of course, Kitty Flanagan's 488 Rules for Life. She's a comedian, or I would say a humorist. So yes, this became a quest for a while. What did it give me? Well, all in all, I think it gave me a complete mental refresh. Mind you, I was looking at topics that I'd looked at a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and in the most extreme case, about 50 years ago. So it was a revisit, and it was a complete mental refresh. What happened? Some things stayed the same. Some things changed utterly. And in any case, things do look different now, looking back on that span of time. Have I changed? Well, that was a question. More important, have my principles stayed the same? That was a question as well. And I was asking myself, have I grown up? Have I stabilized? Have I matured? And in the end, did it help me to go back over this ground? Well, you would have to read the book to find that out. I would say, onward. There was a more general value in my quest. The question, what is it that becomes interesting to us? And there was something more general about what I was doing. The book is a new idea in the world. So that's something that's vital about books. Moreover, the books themselves are particular objects with their own history. And in some cases, I did buy another copy of the book because it seemed to be a different book, a different object, a different perspective on that subject. And in general terms, there are links between books and ideas. There are links between the people who write the books, and I look for that as well. And overall, for oneself, there's a flow of ideas that evolves out of the reading of the books. And I would hope that in reading this book, that you would discover the same thing. There is a flow of ideas that evolves out of it that changes you. So, here I am, Glenn Martin. I live in Sydney and I write books and publish them. You can see them on my website and you can purchase them that way too. And I trust that you will find all the ideas that you encounter to be of interest and to be helpful to you. Thank you.